Have you ever been hurt by just a few words? Maybe it was a careless comment, a cold silence, or a piercing look that felt like a knife. On the surface, it seemed small, but inside you collapsed. You felt invisible, powerless, small. Why do some things cut so deep while others barely touch us? Why do some people carry a wound for a lifetime from a single moment, while others move on with ease? What if I told you there's a way to live where you no longer get hurt in the same way? Not because the world becomes kinder, but because you become stronger. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, believed that our deepest pain doesn't come from the outside world, but from what's buried deep inside us. He said that until we confront our inner shadows, we will keep suffering, not because of what others do, but because of what we haven't yet healed. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So let me ask you, what recently hurt you the most? Was it really the comment, or did it touch something deeper inside? Was it your fear of not being good enough, of not being loved, or of being seen too clearly? This video isn't about blaming others. It's about reclaiming your power. Because when you understand what's truly hurting you, you take back control. You stop giving others the keys to your peace. And most importantly, you stop living from your wounds. If these words resonate with you, if they speak to something quietly buried inside, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not just to support the content, but as a small, powerful act of honoring your own healing journey. And if you're brave enough, leave a comment below. The pain I'm ready to face is, because the moment you give your pain a name, it begins to lose its grip on you. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you might realize that the pain you've been carrying was never about them. It was always about what's still waiting to be healed within you. We've all felt emotional pain, a harsh word, a cold shoulder, a moment that cuts deeper than we know how to explain. Sometimes it's not even what's said. It's the silence, the absence, the feeling of being invisible. Have you ever felt like you're living behind an invisible shield, always preparing for the next time someone might hurt you? That quiet fear becomes a kind of armor we carry every day, protecting us, yes, but also weighing us down. Carl Jung, the brilliant Swiss psychologist who explored the depths of the soul, once said, "Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again." At first, that sounds impossible. How can anyone promise a life free of emotional pain? But Jung wasn't promising escape. He was offering a way to transform pain by changing the way we hold it inside ourselves. This isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming grounded. It's about cultivating a sense of self so strong and so clear that no external comment, rejection, or betrayal can redefine your worth. What would that kind of emotional freedom feel like? To hear criticism but not crumble, to face rejection without losing yourself, to love others without abandoning your own needs. Let me tell you about Olivia. She's a freelance writer from the UK who once poured her whole heart into her stories, until one day a brutal review shattered her confidence. The critic called her work cliché and forgettable, and Olivia didn't just doubt her writing, she began doubting her entire self-worth. For months, she couldn't write. Every blank page became a battlefield. Every idea was drowned in self-doubt. Her mind whispered, "Why bother? You'll only be torn apart again." Have you ever been there? Has someone's judgment or silence ever made you shrink, question yourself, or stop doing something you love? If so, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Olivia's healing didn't begin with success or external validation. It started when she realized no one else gets to define her story. She began writing again, not to please others, but to express what mattered to her. That's the shift Jung was pointing toward. The real power doesn't lie in never being hurt. It lies in not letting hurt define who you are. So pause and ask yourself, when was the last time you felt deeply hurt? Was it a comment, a cold look, a betrayal, or something you couldn't even put into words. Hold that moment gently in your awareness. No judgment, no shame. If you feel comfortable, share just one word in the comments that describes that feeling: angry, abandoned, helpless, worthless. You don't need to explain it, just name it. Naming pain is the first step toward transforming it. In this video, we're going to unpack that pain, where it comes from, why it stays with us, and how to change our relationship with it. We'll look closely at what Carl Jung really meant by nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. More importantly, we'll learn how you can begin building your own inner fortress, not to shut people out, but to stop handing them the keys to your peace. So why are we so vulnerable in the first place? Why can one small comment ruin an entire day? Why do certain memories haunt us years later while others fade away? Let's explore the psychology behind emotional pain, because once we understand it, we no longer have to be ruled by it. And maybe, just maybe, that invisible shield you've always wished for, it starts being built today. To understand why Carl Jung's words are so powerful, we first need to ask, why do we get hurt so easily? Why can one small comment or careless action cut so deeply into our hearts, even when we try to brush it off? Jung would say it starts with the persona, the psychological mask we wear to be liked, accepted, and valued by the world around us. It's the version of ourselves we present to others, the reliable friend, the perfect employee, the kind sibling, the one who never says no. We build that mask to feel loved, but over time, we begin confusing it with our actual identity. Have you ever noticed how criticism feels devastating when it touches something you've worked so hard to protect or perform? When you tie your self-worth to what others think, be it friends, coworkers, or family, even the smallest remark can feel like rejection. You don't just hear what they say, you absorb it, and suddenly their opinion feels like truth. But this isn't just about your personal psychology. Society reinforces this emotional dependency from an early age. Phrases like, "don't let people down," "be the bigger person," or "always be kind" may sound positive, but they quietly teach us to seek validation from outside ourselves. Have you ever felt weighed down by the need to meet expectations that weren't even truly yours? And when those expectations collapse, when someone criticizes you, ignores you, or lets you down, it feels like you've been knocked to the ground with no defense. It's not just disappointment you feel, it's a deep fear that maybe you're not enough. That's the hidden cost of not knowing your worth. That's what happens when you give other people permission to decide who you are. Now think for a moment. What's the cost of not protecting your emotions? Try to remember a time when someone's words hurt you deeply. Was it a casual comment that caught you off guard? Was it rejection from someone whose opinion mattered to you? Why did it hit so hard? What part of you did it touch? Each emotional wound chips away at your sense of value and confidence. You begin to question your talent, your choices, your very identity, not because of truth, but because of someone else's voice echoing in your mind. You might find yourself living in a state of quiet panic, always watching your step, replaying conversations, editing your behavior to avoid being hurt again. Like walking through an emotional minefield, you stay tense, anxious, and on guard. Jung believed that this way of living traps you in a false self, cut off from the path to individuation, the journey of becoming your true self. Let me tell you about Lucas. He's a marketing employee in the US, smart, creative, and deeply committed to his job. For months, he worked late nights, sacrificing weekends, determined to prove himself to his boss. He craved praise like oxygen and dreaded criticism like fire. Then one day during a team meeting, his boss publicly criticized his campaign in front of everyone. In that moment, Lucas didn't just hear feedback, he felt his entire sense of worth collapse. The praise he had lived for vanished. He started second-guessing every decision, became afraid to speak up, and spiraled into working from a place of fear instead of inspiration. Eventually, Lucas reached a realization that changed his life. He had given his boss the power to control his emotions, and it was time to take that power back. Does Lucas's story sound familiar to you? Have you ever let someone's opinion, one moment of judgment, shake your confidence or steal your joy? Pause and reflect. When was the last time someone's words left you feeling small or ashamed? Don't run from the feeling, just notice it, name it. If you're comfortable, drop an icon in the comments if someone's words have ever hurt you. You are not alone. This pain connects us, but so does the possibility of healing from it. So now that we understand where this vulnerability comes from, our masks, our dependence on approval, and the illusions society feeds us, let's uncover what Carl Jung truly meant when he said, "Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again." And more importantly, let's explore how that truth can become your emotional shield, so you stop breaking every time the world doesn't love you the way you hoped. Carl Jung's words, "Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again," aren't just a comforting promise. They're a powerful call to transform the way you live. He's not asking you to stop feeling, to shut down emotionally, or to build walls that isolate you. Instead, Jung is inviting you to construct something much stronger. An inner fortress built from self-awareness, emotional boundaries, and deep self-respect. Because when you truly understand your own worth, something shifts. The words, actions, and rejections of others may still reach you, but they no longer have the power to define you. That's the moment you become emotionally unshakable. In Jungian psychology, this transformation is known as individuation, a process of discovering and fully becoming your true self. It's the journey of peeling away all the roles, masks, and identities society has layered on you. You stop living for approval and start living in alignment with who you actually are. Imagine this. What if every insult, every judgment, every cold silence lost its grip on your heart? What if, in the middle of someone trying to tear you down, you could calmly think, "This has nothing to do with my value"? Picture the freedom of no longer needing validation to feel whole. Take a moment. Think of a person or situation that's been hurting you lately. Maybe it's someone you love who's been distant. Maybe it's a boss who overlooks your efforts. Maybe it's just that voice in your head telling you you're not enough. Now ask yourself this: what if my self-worth didn't depend on that person, that opinion, or that moment? What if I could choose right now not to give it power? This is the foundation of Jung's teaching, that you get to choose what gets to affect your soul. Let's look at how this works in everyday life. When someone criticizes you, the instinct is to feel small, ashamed, defensive. But what if instead you paused and asked, "Does this say anything true about me?" Most times you'll realize it reflects more about them, their pain, their perspective, their own unmet needs, than it does about your worth. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. This is how you begin to master your inner world. And over time, you stop reacting from wounds and start responding from strength. Let me tell you about Charlotte. She's a photographer based in the UK, known for her dreamy, emotional portraits. Early in her career, she shared her work on Instagram and photography forums, pouring her heart into every image. But with every photo came comments, some kind, others brutal. One comment called her work uninspired and technically sloppy. She was devastated. That night, she nearly deleted her whole account, convinced she wasn't good enough. Every word stung like truth, even though she didn't know the person behind the screen. Then by chance, she read about Jung's idea of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. She realized she had tied her entire creative identity to how others responded. She started asking herself, do these opinions really define who I am as an artist? That question became a turning point. Charlotte began separating her self-worth from the feedback. She focused on her process, her intention, her passion, not the praise or criticism. And slowly, her confidence returned, not because the world became kinder, but because she became stronger. Have you ever overcome a painful moment not by fixing it, but by changing how you saw it? Or are you still carrying a hurt that controls how you see yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. You don't need to explain it all. Just one line, one truth, one feeling. Charlotte's story isn't special because she never got hurt again. It's powerful because she learned to feel the hurt, then walk through it without letting it rewrite who she is. That's what mastering your inner world looks like. That's the kind of power Jung believed we all have the capacity to claim. So what actually happens when you embrace Jung's wisdom? What changes when you stop handing your emotions to everyone around you? When you stop letting the world tell you whether you're good enough, smart enough, lovable enough? You begin to live with clarity. You say no without guilt. You let people go without begging them to stay. You hear you're not good enough and simply think, that's your opinion, not my truth. You become someone who listens to feedback, but doesn't collapse under it. You become someone who feels deeply, but protects their peace fiercely. You become someone who's been hurt, but refuses to live wounded. That is the life Carl Jung was pointing to. A life where pain still exists, but it no longer owns you. A life where you no longer bend to fit expectations, but rise to meet your own soul. Let this video be your invitation to begin. Not to run from pain, but to rise above it. Because when you build that inner fortress, nothing and nobody will ever hurt you the same way again. When you stop letting others' words or actions hurt you, your entire life begins to transform in ways you never thought possible. Can you imagine what it would feel like to wake up and no longer fear judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding? Picture a life where your sense of peace doesn't rise and fall based on what someone else says or does. You walk into rooms without shrinking. You speak without rehearsing 100 times. You finally live without fear as your shadow. Carl Jung believed that this inner shift is more than just emotional protection. He saw it as the foundation of a meaningful life, one where you live from your truth, not your wounds. Mastering your inner world doesn't just guard your heart, it sets your soul free. So what happens when you make that shift? What really changes when you stop giving others the power to hurt you? First, you begin to feel a deep sense of inner freedom. You're no longer entangled in the emotional chaos of others, no longer reacting to every jab, silence, or sideways glance. Instead of editing yourself to avoid discomfort, you start living in alignment with who you are. You stop shrinking for approval. You stop apologizing for existing. You become unapologetically you. Second, your self-esteem finally gets the oxygen it needs to breathe and grow. When your worth comes from within, it no longer needs constant maintenance through praise or validation. You face challenges with clarity and calm, knowing that failure doesn't mean you're unworthy, it just means you're human. You stand taller, you speak clearer, and you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel proud of yourself. Third, your life expands. When you're not wasting energy dodging emotional bullets, you have space for joy, space for growth, space to chase the dreams you buried under fear. You begin becoming the person you were always meant to be. That's Jung's vision of individuation. Not a perfect version of yourself, but a real one. A self no longer chained to external opinions, but rooted in inner truth. And here's something powerful. These changes don't stop with you. They ripple outward into your relationships, your creativity, your legacy. When you're strong on the inside, you attract people who recognize your depth, not just your surface. You stop performing, you start connecting, and you inspire others not by being flawless, but by being real. Let me introduce you to Noah. He's a musician from the US who used to write songs late into the night, playing his guitar with fire in his chest. But after a few cruel comments about his voice at a local open mic, he shut down. He packed his guitar away, convinced that his dream wasn't worth the pain. For months, music became a ghost in his life, present in memory but absent in action. He told himself he didn't care, but deep down it broke him. Then one night, Noah stumbled across a quote from Carl Jung: "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Something clicked. He realized he had handed strangers control over his passion, his voice, and his identity. And that realization brought him back to the stage, not with the goal of being liked, but with the goal of being whole. He recorded his first album from his bedroom. He booked a small gig at a cafe, and for the first time in years he felt alive, not because he was fearless, but because fear no longer made his decisions. Does Noah's story remind you of something in your own life? Have you buried a part of yourself because someone else's opinion hurt too much? What would it look like to dust it off and give it life again? Take a moment and breathe that in. What part of your life would you reclaim if you weren't afraid of being hurt? What change would you dare to make if rejection no longer scared you? In the comments, I invite you to reflect. Share one sentence, one dream if you're ready to grow beyond fear. Because these transformations don't start with external success. They begin inside, with a single shift in how you hold your worth. And yes, these changes sound amazing, but how do you actually get there? How do you go from emotional fragility to emotional freedom? From living for others to standing fully in yourself? Let's dive into the practical steps that help you build that inner fortress and become unbreakable, not because life is easy, but because your soul is anchored. Now that you understand the power of becoming emotionally unbreakable, let's explore how to actually apply Jung's wisdom to your life. Are you ready to try just one small change today that could shift your entire emotional world? Here are 4 simple but powerful steps to help you build your emotional shield, starting now. First, self-awareness. Take time to reconnect with who you are and what makes you valuable beyond anyone else's approval. Write down 3 things you're proud of, qualities, decisions, or actions that reflect your truth, not someone else's validation. Second, emotional independence. Break the habit of tying your worth to how others see you. The next time someone criticizes you, pause and ask, does this really reflect who I am, or is it just their projection? Third, set clear emotional boundaries. Decide what opinions, behaviors, or words get access to your inner space. If something hurts, don't spiral. Refocus your attention on your strengths and remind yourself what's actually true about you. Fourth, accept and transform. Instead of holding on to pain, treat every wound as a teacher. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience that will help me grow stronger? Jung believed deep transformation begins with reflection. Whether it's journaling, quiet meditation, or even a nightly check-in with yourself, create space to listen to your inner voice. Pick one of these steps. Which feels most doable for you right now? What's one thing you could commit to trying this week just to start? Let me tell you about Grace. She's a retail worker from the UK who used to feel devastated every time a customer complained about her service. Each negative comment made her question her worth, even when she'd done her best. Then she started journaling each night, just 1 page reflecting on what she handled well that day. Over time, something shifted. She began to see her own effort, her calm, her kindness, and not let a single rude comment erase that. Eventually, she started handling difficult situations with more confidence, and even earned praise from her manager for her poise under pressure. In the comments, share which step you're going to try first, or a time when you turned emotional pain into personal growth. You have the tools now. The question is, are you ready to use them? Let's wrap this up with a challenge. Start small, stay honest, and give yourself the credit you deserve. Your emotional strength isn't something you wait for. It's something you build. We've just taken an incredible journey through the wisdom of Carl Jung, and now it's time to bring that insight into your everyday life. Mastering your inner world isn't about avoiding life's challenges. It's about facing them with strength, clarity, and the courage to be your true self. Here's your challenge for today. Choose one thing, just one, that you will no longer allow to define or disturb your peace. Maybe it's a comment that keeps echoing in your mind, a memory that still stings, or a situation you keep replaying over and over. Decide now. This no longer controls me. Focus on your worth instead. Remind yourself who you are, what you value, and why you matter. Notice how it feels when you stop giving power to what no longer deserves it. Take a breath and ask yourself, who or what is hurting you right now? Is it someone's silence, someone's words, or something you haven't yet forgiven yourself for? More importantly, what small step can you take today to reclaim your strength? Share your thoughts in the comments. Whether it's a single word, a sentence, or a story, we're here to listen. I can't wait to hear your truth and cheer you on. One viewer from America shared that they used to let coworkers' criticism slowly erode their confidence. But then they began a simple habit, writing down 3 things they loved about themselves every day. Over time, their self-image shifted, and now they feel liberated, unshaken by external voices. You can do this too. It starts with one small act of self-honor. Don't wait for permission to be strong. You already have it. If this video spoke to you, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell for more content every week on psychology, healing, and personal growth. And if you're ready for the next step, check out our video on the power of your shadow self, linked right below. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Let's choose to become powerful, grounded, and free together. Drop your personal goal or intention in the comments, and let's build a community rooted in inner strength. Because growth is better when we grow together.